Welcome to This Day in His Story, created by American Heritage Worldwide, a reminder that every day holds something new to learn. Did you know that the pencil-thin profile of the Empire State Building is the iconic symbol of New York City? Climb the 1,872 steps to the top, or ride in one of the 73 elevators to see the giant ape King Kong being attacked by airplanes. Remember the $150,000 stunt that didn't go as planned in 1983, when an 84-foot inflatable King Kong balloon was attached to the mooring mast of the Empire State Building.
You know, there are buildings and then there are icons. You can show a silhouette of a certain structure to almost anyone on the planet and they'll know exactly what it is.
Exactly where it is, what it represents. We're talking about a structure that the American Society of Civil Engineers officially named one of the 7 wonders of the modern world.
That's a pretty exclusive club.
It really is. And for a long time, this building wasn't just a skyscraper. It was, the skyscraper. It's a National Historic Landmark as of 1986.
Yeah.
And for decades, it defined the New York City skyline.
We are, of course, talking about the Empire State Building. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. I know this. It's tall. King Kong climbed it. It's in Manhattan.
Right.
But today, we're doing a deep dive into a source titled A Monument of Eternal Perspective. And I have to say, reading through this, I realized I didn't actually know the story of the building. I just knew the image.
And that's such a common trap, right? The image is so famous, it almost obscures the reality. This source is great because it covers the whole spectrum.
It really does.
It takes us from the gritty, dusty details of the construction site in the 1930s, which was a logistical miracle, by the way, all the way to some truly bizarre pop culture mishaps.
And it even lands on this surprisingly philosophical note about what that view from the top actually means. So our mission today is to understand how this massive thing got built so fast. Spoiler, the speed is actually terrifying.
It's unbelievable.
And to uncover the stuff they don't tell you on the audio tour, like the time they tried to attach a giant inflatable ape to it.
We will definitely get to the inflatable ape. It's a great lesson in marketing hubris.
Yeah.
But I think to really appreciate the building, you have to look at what was there before.
Before the steel went up.
Exactly. Because this wasn't always a concrete jungle.
Right. It's so hard to imagine Midtown Manhattan as anything other than just chaotic streets and taxis. But the source points out that if you go back to the 18th century, this land was quiet.
It was a farm. Just rolling hills, maybe some crops, a stream. It's a pretty stark reminder of how young the modern city actually is.
It really is.
But the real shift, the moment that land started to carry some prestige, happens in 1893. That same plot becomes the site of the original Waldorf Astoria Hotel.
Which was the absolute peak of luxury at the time. That was the place to be seen.
It was where the 400, the social elite of New York, would gather. But, in New York, nothing stays the same for long. The drive for verticality, for density, meant even a grand hotel had to go.
So they just tore it down.
They demolished this iconic hotel to make way for something totally unprecedented right on the west side of Fifth Avenue between West 33rd and 34th Streets.
That feels incredibly wasteful, doesn't it? To tear down a luxury hotel that wasn't even that old?
By our standards, yes. But you have to put yourself in the mindset of the 1920s boom. Land value was just skyrocketing. A 4-story hotel, no matter how fancy, just wasn't maximizing the square footage. They needed height.
And this is where the story turns into a race. I mean, we talk about fast-paced environments at work today, but the timeline for the Empire State Building is just absurd. Excavation started January 25th, 1930.
And the context here is everything. January 1930. This is just months after the stock market crash of '29. The Great Depression isn't looming. It's here.
And yet they're pushing forward with this massive project.
With incredible ambition.
Yeah.
And the goal wasn't just to build a big building. The goal was to build the tallest building.
The source mentions something crazy about that. It says the design was changed 15 times. 15. That sounds like an architect's nightmare.
It was a nightmare fueled entirely by ego. Those changes weren't about, making the lobby nicer. They were specifically to make sure it would be the world's tallest building.
They were in a battle.
A battle played out in steel and stone. They were watching the Chrysler Building, which was going up at the exact same time.
Ah, right. The Chrysler Building, the one with that beautiful Art Deco crown.
Exactly. And its developer, Walter Chrysler, was keeping his final height a total secret. He actually hid the spire inside the building and then popped it up at the last minute to claim the title.
That's sneaky.
It is. So the developers of the Empire State Building, John Raskob and his team, they just kept tweaking their plans. Add another floor, make the spire taller. They had to be sure that when the dust settled, they came out on top.
It is so petty for such massive business tycoons. My building is taller than your building.
It's completely petty, but that competition drove innovation. And that brings us to the actual construction. Because if you think the design changes were stressful, the construction timeline was, well, it was borderline impossible. The source says the project was completed in just 410 days.
410 days. That is just over a year. I have friends whose kitchen renovations have taken longer than that. How is that physically possible for a 1- and 2-story building?
It comes down to military-grade logistics. The source calls it a miracle, but it was really about flow. They had a workforce of up to 3,400 men working daily.
Wow.
But it wasn't just throwing bodies at the problem. It was the supply chain.
The source mentioned something about the steel beams being warm.
That's a famous detail. They had this system where the steel beams were fabricated in Pennsylvania. They were put on a train, shipped to New Jersey, floated across the river on a barge, put on a truck, and lifted into place so fast that the metal was literally still warm from the foundry when the workers riveted it into place.
That is just-in-time delivery before the term even existed.
Precisely. They had no room to store materials on the streets of Manhattan. The truck would pull up, the crane would come down, and the steel would go straight up. They were building at a rate of 4.5 stories per week.
That pace is just dizzying. And speaking of dizzying, the source links to those photos of the workers, the Sky Boys. You've seen these, right?
They're legendary.
Just guys in newsboy caps, eating lunch on a steel beam, their legs dangling over nothing but air, hundreds of feet up.
No harnesses, no ropes. It gives you vertigo just looking at the pictures on a screen.
It really does. It highlights the human cost and the sheer bravery, or maybe the economic desperation of the workforce during the Depression.
I think it was both. These were coveted jobs. $5 a day was a good wage back then. Many of them were Mohawk iron workers who were famous for their ability to work at heights.
And they were building this pencil-thin profile, cladding it in Indiana limestone, literally in the clouds. Why Indiana limestone?
Aesthetics and speed. It's durable. It has that distinctively classic look, and they could pre-cut it. It would arrive on site ready to be hooked on. It gave the building that blonde, majestic look that catches the sunset so well.
And the result of all that hustle, all that warm steel and limestone, it didn't just get done. It finished 3 months ahead of schedule and under budget.
Which, in the world of construction, especially New York construction, is the real wonder of the world. Coming in under budget on a massive project it's unheard of today.
Seriously. Imagine telling a contractor today, I need this 100-story tower done in 400 days, and they say, no problem, we'll have it done in 300.
It all culminated in this huge opening day. The source mentions the newsreel footage with Franklin D. Roosevelt, who was governor of New York then, and former governor Al Smith. The massive media event. They knew they'd created something special.
So they built it, they opened it, and it was huge. Let's get into the stats that made it the record holder.
Okay, so it stands at 1,454 feet tall. It's got 103 stories. And for nearly 40 years, that was enough to keep it as the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world.
That is a long reign. In the 20th century, with technology moving so fast, holding a record like that for 4 decades that's really impressive.
It is. It just speaks to how far ahead of the curve the Empire State Building was. It wasn't until late 1970 that the North Tower of the World Trade Center finally surpassed it.
And this brings us to a more somber point in the building's history that the source touches on.
Right. The shift in the skyline after 2001.
After the terrorist attacks on September 11th, when the Twin Towers fell, the Empire State Building once again became the tallest building in New York City.
It's a title I don't think anyone wanted it to have back under those circumstances.
No, certainly not. It held that distinction again until 2012, when One World Trade Center surpassed it. But it shows how this building has been a silent witness to the city's highest highs and lowest lows. It's a constant.
It's the anchor. And part of that constant nature is the experience of visiting it. I mean, nearly 4 million tourists go there every single year.
It's almost a cliche to go, but the source argues it's still worth it.
It's a pilgrimage. You go up to the open-air observation decks on the 86th or the 102nd floor, and the source makes a specific point about the data density of that view.
Yeah, it says on a clear day, the visibility is 80 miles.
80 miles. Which is just incredible. You aren't just looking at New York. You can see 5 states, New York, obviously, but also New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania and Massachusetts.
That blows my mind. You're standing in Midtown and you're looking at Massachusetts. I usually think of Massachusetts as being a long drive away.
It connects you to the geography of the Northeast in a way you just can't get from street level. And speaking of atmosphere, the source mentions how the building interacts with the weather. Because it's so high, the spire sometimes just vanishes into the clouds.
Or at night, it can crackle with surrounding lightning.
Crackle with lightning, that sounds terrifying. It acts as a lightning rod, literally. It gets struck about 25 times a year. It's actually protecting the surrounding buildings.
It's almost like it generates its own weather system. It feels very Frankenstein-esque. It's alive.
Well, it certainly has a life of its own in pop culture.
Oh, absolutely. This is the fun part. The source says the Empire State Building has been featured in over 90 movies. But we all know there's one that stands above the rest.
The Big Ape.
King Kong, 1933. The image of Kong swatting at those biplanes is probably one of the most famous images in cinema history.
It really cemented the building as this symbol of human achievement. Something so tall that a giant monster would naturally want to climb it to escape. It was the ultimate peak.
But here's where it gets really interesting and kind of hilarious. The source tells this story about a fun fact that went wrong. So fast forward to April 1983.
The 50th anniversary of the movie.
Exactly. And someone in marketing had a big idea. Let's bring Kong back.
A very big idea. They decided to attach an 84-foot inflatable King Kong balloon to the mooring mast of the building.
Just picture the logistics of this. An 84-foot balloon that's, what, 8 stories tall?
At least. And it wasn't cheap. The source says it cost $150,000. In 1983 money, that is a serious investment.
You'd expect something spectacular.
So they hoist this thing up there, expecting it to look menacing and powerful.
Disaster.
What happened?
The balloon tore while they were inflating it.
Oh, no.
The wind at that altitude is no joke. It twisted the balloon, ripped the fabric. It only stayed up for a short time before they had to take it down.
Oh, it's brutal.
Imagine being the person who signed off on that check. You're expecting this majestic tree, and instead you get a deflated, ripped balloon just flapping in the wind.
It probably looked more like a giant trash bag than a monster.
Exactly. It's a great reminder that even with engineering marvels, things can go wrong. Nature, specifically the wind at 1,000 feet, is undefeated.
Best laid plans, right. It kind of brings the building down to earth a little bit.
It does. Speaking of bringing it down to earth, or rather the details inside it, we should run through some of the rapid-fire secrets, the source lists.
Yeah, because when you look at a building this big, the numbers start to get abstract.
Okay, let's do it. Rapid-fire stats. Steps.
1,872 steps from street level to the 103rd floor.
My legs hurt just hearing that. I'm assuming most people don't walk that.
Only during the annual run-up race. Otherwise, you take one of the 73 elevators.
Don't do us.
6,514.
I would hate to be the window washer.
It's a never-ending job. By the time you finish the last one, the first one is dirty again.
No kidding. Here's a weird one the source mentions. Bird safety. I had not thought about this.
This is actually a really thoughtful detail. During bird migration season, on foggy nights, they turn off the tower lights.
Why is that? Do the lights attract them?
Yeah. The bright lights in the fog can disorient the birds. They get confused, they fly in circles, and they can crash into the building. So the building goes dark to save the birds.
That is surprisingly tender for a giant steel skyscraper. It's like a lighthouse in reverse.
It is. And on the flip side of tender, you have the adrenaline junkies. The source notes that people have actually parachuted from the observation deck.
Which, we need to be clear, do not try this.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
Illegal and incredibly dangerous. The winds we mentioned with a balloon, they make parachuting a nightmare.
But there is a safer way to join a club at the building, the Empire State Building Wedding Club.
This sounds exclusive. Is there a secret handshake?
Sort of. If you get married on the 80th floor on Valentine's Day, you become a member. And the perk is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
You get free admission to the observatory every year on February 14th.
That's a pretty good deal. Anniversary date, sorted forever. You never have to wonder where to go.
Exactly. So we've got the history, the construction speed, the failed balloon, the bird safety. But the source we're looking at today has a title that hints at something deeper. A monument of eternal perspective.
Right. And this is where we pivot from engineering to philosophy. The source uses the building as a metaphor. And honestly, this is the part that stuck with me the most.
It's a really specific comparison. It's not just, oh, the view is pretty.
No. It compares the physical act of climbing to the highest point, getting that 80-mile view we talked about, to a spiritual concept.
The idea being that when you're down on the street, your view is limited. You see traffic, you see the building across from you, maybe a sliver of sky. You don't have context.
Precisely. When you're on the sidewalk, you're reactive. A car honks, you jump. The source argues that climbing to the top gives you a view that is impossible to have in any other way. And it draws a parallel to obedience.
Right. It says, when we are obedient to the Lord's commandments, we can gain the blessings of a longer, higher view of an eternal perspective.
It's just fascinating to see a mechanical, architectural feat used to explain a spiritual state. The building becomes a tool for understanding clarity.
So the idea is that obedience isn't about restriction, it's about elevation.
That's a powerful way to put it. We're all stuck in our daily grind, the street level, so to speak.
Yeah.
We get caught up in the immediate problems right in front of our noses, the deadline at work, the argument with a friend.
And this analogy suggests that there's a way to lift yourself out of that, to see the layout of the whole city or your whole life, rather than just the one obstacle in front of you.
Right. When you're at the top, the traffic noise fades away. The gridlock down below looks like a pattern, not a problem.
It reminds me of how the design of the building itself changed 15 times. At that moment, each change probably felt like a huge headache, a delay, a massive problem for the draftsman.
That's a great connection. If you were the draftsman in 1930, those changes were just stress. You were probably cursing the architects. But if you take the higher view, the historical view, you see that those changes were necessary to create the icon we have today. The struggle was part of the masterpiece.
So whether it's spiritual obedience, as the source suggests, or just taking a step back in a stressful situation, the value is in the perspective.
Precisely. The Empire State Building isn't just a pile of limestone and steel. It's a platform for seeing the world differently.
It's funny, we started this deep dive talking about how fast it was built, the 410 days, the rush, the noise, the rivets. But it seems like the lasting value of the building is actually the stillness you get at the top.
That's the paradox, isn't it? It was born out of a frantic, ego-driven race for height and dominance, but it serves as a place of quiet reflection. It was built by noise to provide silence.
So what does this all mean for us? We've walked through the 18th century farm, the dizzying construction photos, the King Kong mishaps, and the spiritual metaphors.
I think it means that the Empire State Building is so much more than just a tourist trap. It's a symbol of human ambition, both the messy kind, like the failed balloon, and the glorious kind, like the speed of its construction.
And it serves as a reminder that sometimes you just need to change your elevation to understand where you are. Well said. It's a mix of Art Deco beauty, engineering miracles, and a little bit of philosophical wisdom.
And let's not forget the 1,872 steps. It's a symbol of cardio, too.
Let's not forget the cardio, always important.
But really, the source leaves us with a provocative question, and I think it's a great place to leave you.
It asks the reader to consider a time they gain that higher perspective.
Right. So here's the question for you to think about. In your own life, whether it's in your career, your relationships, or your spiritual life, what is your 80-mile view? What allows you to stop looking at the traffic on the street level and see the states beyond?
And are you willing to do the climb or take the elevator to get there? That's something to chew on. Thanks for diving in with us today.
Always a pleasure.
We'll see you next time. Thank you for joining us for this day in His story. May the lessons of yesterday inspire you to see God's hand today and to play your part in His story now. For more faith-based learning, visit ahsworldwide.org, the homeschool for faith and family.